My name is Dr. Tushar Mehta. I'm from Canada, and I did my residency there in family medicine. I've also practiced addictions medicine, and I've mostly practiced emergency medicine, or what you call A&E in some countries. I have an interest in international health, and I do work in India and a few other places. And on top of that, I have a strong interest in plant-based diet and health. So when I say plant-based diet and health, you can also say vegan diet and health. And I'm here on behalf of Hina Modi and plantshift.com. If you go to the internet, you're going to find hundreds of websites. You're going to find things in newspapers, articles, magazines, whatever, about eating this or that kind of diet and why it's better for you. You'll find the paleo diet, you'll find blood type diet, you'll find all kinds of things. You'll find variations on a plant-based diet that can be very different from each other as well. Many of these articles, or most of them, are always going to complain, they're always going to tell you what they think is better for you or the best diet. But the point is, where is their information coming from? They all think they're very smart, but in many cases, it's just their opinion or information coming from some kind of pseudoscience and not actually science-based information. And what we want to do is get science-based information, good science-based information, instead of pseudoscience, opinion, and all kinds of other garbage that many times comes from industries just trying to promote their type of food and make lots of money. All right. So what are some of the characteristics of good science and practical nutritional information? All right. So there's an interesting quote that I have to begin with, and that is that Mr. BSK Iyengar, he practiced yoga and meditation, and he lived till the age of 96 years. Mr. Khushwant Singh drank whiskey all his life and died at the age of 99. So the moral of the story is that whiskey gives you a 3-year advantage over yoga and meditation. Now, it's kind of a funny slide that I have, you see my full talk, but what's the point here? We all know somebody who maybe smoked and drank their entire life and lived till 105. There are people like that. They smoked a pack a day and lived past 100. But that doesn't mean that it's good for everybody. If you take 1,000 people who smoke every day and you take 1,000 people who were non-smokers for their entire life, maybe a couple of people will live into their 90s or even 100 into one group. But the percentage is going to be low. You're going to have a lot of people who are dying at a young age, in their 50s and 60s, of heart disease and cancer. And in the other group, overall, there may be some people who die at a young age, but on average, they're going to have people living longer with less lung disease, heart disease, and better survival rates because they were non-smoker. And what I'm getting here is that medical science, nutritional science, and other things are based on statistics. And that's a hard thing for people to understand. Everybody's got some uncle who lived, like I said, a long time on a bad lifestyle, but it's about statistics. What are your chances, or what are the statistics in a population who may smoke, or may have a certain type of diet, or may take a medication? So medical science is based on statistics. Now, the next thing you need to know is that we have to know that these studies are done on people, and you need to have enough people in each group. If you just have a couple of people or 10 people in each group, random things may happen, and you may not exactly reflect the type of risk that somebody has from a certain type of behavior, medication, or etc. Okay, so you want statistical significance, so you want large groups of people. It's good to have 1,000 people, or maybe 10,000 people, or 100,000 people, and split them up into a couple of groups where one is taking a medication, the other one's taking a placebo, the other group is taking a different type of medication to see which one is better. So you need different groups with large enough numbers of people, and you need enough time. If you're seeing if a medication protects you from a heart attack, and you just put people on a medication and watch them for like a few months, you may not get enough heart attacks over time to really statistically see if a medication is protective or makes things worse maybe. You want to watch them for 10 years or 20 years, or sometimes short times may be okay, like maybe 2-5 years. It depends on the problem that you're looking for and the amount of disease that happens in that population to see if you get statistical significance. The other thing you want to make sure is that the groups are similar to each other. So usually you have something like a control group. You have a group of people on a medication, and you have a group of people who are not taking the medication. Maybe they're taking a placebo, okay? So they think they're taking a medication. And you compare them and see what happens. You can't just have people only taking the medication and seeing what happens to them. You need the comparison group, okay? Or one medication compared to another medication, or one diet compared to another diet in our case, okay? So you need to see that there's control groups and what happens between the groups. There has to be enough people in the group. The other thing you need to know is that the groups are similar to each other in all different respects. You can't have one group that's all old people and the other group that's all young people, or one group that has too many smokers and the other one mostly non-smokers, or socioeconomic status, or gender differences, differences in exercise, TV watching, whatever. You want to make sure that there's similarities between the different groups so you can see what happens to them over time and it's not biased by other factors. So that's what we call controlling for other variables. The next thing is that you want to make sure that the studies are done in actual humans. Sometimes things are done in a test tube. They say, oh, you eat this food, and in the test tube it looks like it's better, it's bad for your thyroid cells or something like that. Or they do some studies in mice and they extrapolate to humans, or other animals and extrapolate to humans. In many cases, a medication will work in an animal but not work in the human, or vice versa, or have a bad side effect, or cause more mortality in the animal compared to the human, or vice versa. You ultimately have to test things in humans, and the final phase of medication trials are always done in human beings, large numbers of human beings, and seeing statistically what actually happens in people. They may hypothesize based on things in a test tube or whatever, but ultimately you got to see what happens in humans. And that's what good diet studies also have to do. They have to show what happens not in a petri dish or an animal, but what actually happens in people. The next thing that you're looking for are actual clinical outcomes. Good studies look for clinical outcomes. I was looking today at some study that talked about the type of bacteria that different types of diet may cause in the intestine, and from there saying that, oh, this type of diet may be healthier than the other type of diet. Or there's other studies that just show that, oh, this type of food or medication may make your cholesterol go up and down, or change some other blood test parameter, like your C-reactive protein or something like that. So the bacteria in the intestine, the cholesterol level, or some other numbers on some other blood tests may go up and down, but that may not be relevant to a person as much as, it may have some relevance. I'm not saying it may have zero relevance, but what's more relevant is the actual disease and survival in a person that matters to a person. So if you give a certain medication or a certain type of diet and a person gets diabetes or doesn't get diabetes, that's important. If they have a heart attack or a stroke, that's actually important. So raising or lowering the cholesterol may not always have an impact or a big impact on the final disease state that we're really worried about. And the other big thing that we like to measure is death. We like to actually measure survival. So if people are taking one medication versus a placebo or another medication, we want to see, after you follow them for like 5 years, 10 years, or however much it takes, to see how many people died in this group and survived, how many people died or survived in the other group. And that's going to give us a very hard endpoint. Just the number of the cholesterol moving up and down isn't so important compared to an actual morbidity and a mortality difference. Okay, so that's another thing that you want to look for in studies when you're comparing different studies. When you look at the internet or any other source and they say that something is better or not, see that they're actually referencing a study, and then go and download the study or look at the abstract at the very least and see, what are they actually measuring? Are they measuring some number that's going on, or just the bacteria that might be in your intestine and saying that, hey, this may be better for you? Or are they actually measuring a disease or mortality? Okay, and that's something that's very important. So the references for every single video that I have are going to be downloadable from the description box, where you can click and download the entire set of references, and then just scroll down to the relevant references. If it's a video on diabetes or cancer or something like that, scroll down to the relevant section and take a look at the references that I'm speaking about. In my videos, I'll generally discuss one reference, but it's going to take too long to discuss 10 references and you'll be bored out of your mind. So I'll discuss one, and then you can go into the reference list and look at more references that are talking about the same topic. And it's important not just to have one reference, but to have multiple references that discuss a topic, because then you're seeing that different studies are being done in different places by different people, and they're getting similar results that are reinforcing each other. Okay, so that's another good thing to look at.